Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about homeowners insurance. First question, what types of coverage are there? Well, we happen to be based in Central Florida, which means that we have a unique situation that most of the country doesn't face. That's right, and it's not sinkholes and it's not hurricanes. Florida typically has much more restrained policies than the rest of the country. That doesn't mean you can't get great coverage, but there are types of policies, lingo, I know, for instance called an HO5 or an all risks policy that's readily available outside of Florida and almost unheard of here. Why? Well, it's again not because of those natural disaster perils, it's because of our regulatory environment. That means, the personal injury attorneys and the people up in Tallahassee, those representatives and senators, who are often the same people. Long story short, companies are afraid to take on risk because of runaway litigation in the Florida court system. In fact, we're one of the worst states in the nation for litigation, and it's not about keeping insurers honest anymore. It's about making millions in some pretty unscrupulous ways. Regardless, let's talk about types of coverage. If you own a home, you're typically going to purchase what's called an HO3 or a homeowner's special form policy. Back in the day, this was typically called fire insurance, and it covers a number of perils. The special form just means that it covers everything that isn't specifically excluded in the policy. So this is if you have a fire, a windstorm in most situations, or other things that would happen at your house, including liability, and liability can even extend off premises. So we've got homeowners insurance, three main types that we see: basic form, broad form, and special form. Here at Harry Levine Insurance, we only deal with special form because that provides you the coverage that you need. It is the broadest available typically in the Florida marketplace, and the other forms we find to just be too restrictive, and no matter what the price tag might look like in terms of attracting you, it's just typically inappropriate coverage in our professional opinion. Second question, what's covered? That is a dangerous question. Every insurance contract is different. You see, every insurance company has a whole team of attorneys that go over every single word and punctuation mark in an insurance policy. The ultimate result is, while as a consumer, you may typically only look at the 6, 7, or 8 main coverages of a policy and say, hey, this is apples to apples. If you really start reading the insurance contract, Company A, Company B, and Company C that have the same basic 7 or 8 main coverages actually may have very, very different contracts, and you may want to make a decision based on the nuts and bolts of that contract, which is why you need an independent insurance agent like us here at Harry Levine Insurance. We need to explain those contractual differences, and anyone who simply says, they're all similar, is truly doing a disservice to their clientele. So what's covered? Well, typically you've got your dwelling, where you'd have the actual building that's covered. Then you have other structures. So for instance, if you had a detached pool, a detached garage, a shed, a boat dock, something like that, that would be covered. Then you have loss of use. Let's say that you had a kitchen fire and you had to move out of your home for 8 weeks while things were cleaned up and then repaired. Your insurance typically would actually pay for a hotel and even food receipts during that time that you were displaced from your primary residence. There's also liability coverage, which in many cases is worldwide. So whether or not something happens like a slip and fall in your driveway, or you accidentally bump into that little old lady in Publix with your shopping cart and she winds up with a broken hip, that coverage is there to defend you and to indemnify an injured third party. There are several other main nuts and bolts that we go to beyond that, such as medical payments and some other things, but I won't bore you with any of that right now. What's not covered? Well, that's an easy question if we're only going to talk about, remember, that special form homeowners insurance contract. What's not covered is what is listed as excluded in the policy. Can I go item by item and tell you? Well, I'd have to look at your specific insurance contract. Again, no matter what the commercials that talk about a percentage in a few minutes saving you time, or a magical gun that can pick the perfect product off the shelf for you say, every insurance contract is different. They are not boxed products. So I really can't answer that question with any true certainty. How do you get reimbursed for loss or damage? Well, that's pretty simple. You file a claim. Most insurance companies have a process where you can either make a phone call, make an online submission, or contact their claims department some way. We're seeing more and more the use of cell phone apps and you can even sometimes tweet or Facebook message these companies. And that starts the process where an adjuster then contacts you, takes a look at what happened, takes a look at if we're talking about a repair or a replacement, and anything else that may be going on with the situation, and comes up with the fairest possible settlement. So how do you save money on homeowners insurance? Easy first answer from me is get a wind mitigation inspection. Wind mitigation is a series of credits that the Florida legislature created a little more than a decade ago to try to provide some premium relief for Florida homeowners. It looks at several, 5 or 6 actually, construction methods that are used on your roof. And the findings of the affidavit then earn you mandatory credits. That's right. Every homeowner insurance company in Florida has to offer these credits. And the best part is the inspection cannot hurt you. It cannot make your insurance cost more. The only way that could happen is if you had an existing wind mitigation inspection and a new wind mitigation inspection was needed for some reason, and somehow the 2 inspections didn't agree. It does happen, not very often, but we've seen it. Long story short though, you start at a certain baseline, and the inspection cannot bring you below it. It can only get you credits above it. So that's kind of the lowdown on Florida homeowners insurance without getting into some of the fun legislative stuff or other things going on in our marketplace. We'll do a video on that later. But all you need to know is that in Florida, we don't have all risk coverage, which is typically HO5. We have special form typically as the most broadest coverage. That's HO3. Although I say never, there might be somebody who brings back an HO5. What's covered? You really need to know your homeowner's insurance contract. What's not covered? Same answer. You've got to know your contract, and I can't stress enough that every contract is different. Almost no 2 policies are the same, no matter what those first couple of pages look like that give you the basic nuts and bolts. It's that back 60 to 100 pages that are going to make the world of difference at the time of a claim. How do you get reimbursed for loss or damage? Sounds like a cop-out answer, but file a claim. Understand your company's process, and at your time of loss, call Harry Levine Insurance if we're your agent, or whoever your trusted choice independent agent is. Let them be your advocate. Let them make a bridge to your insurance company. But please understand that we are not licensed claims professionals. Most agents aren't. What we're here to do is advocate on your behalf and make that link to the appropriate claims folks who can take care of you much better in that situation than we can. How to save money on homeowners insurance? Well, the first answer was wind mitigation. The second answer is, again, don't be tempted by cheap prices. Know that contract. I could point out all day long insurance policies that might be $200, $300, even $400 less than another one, but if you had a claim, if I started explaining what wasn't covered, bottom line, you often pay for what you get. And I'll say it again, no 2 insurance contracts are alike. So the best thing to do is develop a strong relationship with your independent insurance agent and understand the product that they're selling you. It's one thing to take their advice, but I would say never put blind faith in any professional. Make them educate you. That's what we're here to do. Help you understand what you're buying, why you're buying it, and what value you're receiving. So that's it for today. Thanks for sticking around. And remember, get with a friend. Tell them how cool this YouTube channel is. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Take care.